Ladies and gentlemen, I cannot think of a nicer way to start a joint meeting.
If there's no new funds, let me point this out, if there's no new funds for new construction projects, and let's just speak hypothetically, what if it's 2 or 3 years before there are any new funds? A new school construction project is going to be 3 to 4 years, my understanding. So, considering the conditions, the current conditions at CSLA, it doesn't sound like they have 5 to 6 years to wait on a facility. They are doing great things out there. I think it would be great if other students had the opportunity to attend. Something else that the commission's going to have to look at, and this is our responsibility. We're the funding body. It's totally our responsibility. But just putting it out there, we're going to have some serious discussion about building a jail. And the price tag on that's $100 million plus. And I've been talking to the sheriff, and he shared some information with me, and we're at a point where it's pretty critical. We may get mandated to do that. And as you all may recall, we hired a firm to look at privatizing the jail. We don't know what's going to be presented, but we're supposed to start doing workshops pretty soon. I think the mayor's putting together some workshops. So we don't even know what that's going to cost. The people that elected us, and I've had many calls this past week, they said, we don't want you to raise our taxes until you can prove to us you're taking care of what you got and that you're using the classroom space that's available. We're not buying into that. And these are just the calls I'm getting.
Thank you. Ms. Jones, I think, had her hand next.
A couple of things. One, I'm kind of backtracking, so I'm gonna do this first. Which school is at the 46%?
It's it's on the last page, Hopper.
Okay. All right. Now backing up. Answer that question. Going back. One, we have some district officials here that probably can better give you or give the commission and the community a better understanding of this capacity list, because capacity, it doesn't mean necessarily where classrooms where people can go and see, because some rooms and areas have been repurposed for other things. So I think, one, we need to allow our district officials that are here to be able to better explain that, so that you all may have a better understanding of that. Although there still may be some seats left for students. It's not saying that that's not the case, but just I think we need to weigh those options. Two, you did mention about there being no money, no funding probably to be considered for new buildings, and if that's the case, then that is the case. However, it's very disheartening to me, or disconcerting to me, to in the same comment segment mention about building a jail. And I think for me, my concern is that here in Hamilton County, we know we have several crime issues, and we have certain things that are going on socioeconomically, and there's a lack of mobility and several other things of that nature. But it is very disheartening to me to say that we can't, or to say that we believe in public education and that we want what's best for our kids and we want them to have what they need, and then turn around and talk about a jail, which is where half of our kids are going, because according to the public and everybody else, we, the district, are not educating them to get what they need, which is not true. However, the Hamilton County taxpayers can pay or contract out to CCA, which spends over $30,000 a year for an inmate, but we spend $8,000 a year on a student. That's very disheartening to me. So I think we also need to understand, and I'm speaking as a taxpayer, not as a board member, but I'm speaking as a taxpayer, and I pay city and county taxes. So that's very disconcerting to me, to say that we need to have a discussion about a jail, but we can't have a discussion about making sure that our schools are efficient, or that we have enough room for them. And and you're right, we need to consider CSLA and what's going on with them, because they're doing amazing things in that building. But we also need to consider several of our other schools who also have rodents, and have mold, and have paint and lead paint that's chipping off their windows, and have sinkholes in their yards, and trailers with undercarriages that are torn up, sidewalks that community members are building with their own money, grass pellets that are being laid by principals' fathers. But we're going to talk about building a concrete cell with 3 hots and a cot. That's very disconcerting to me. And I just want to put that out there because I represent a district where poverty and crime are entrenched. And I think the only way to help them is to make sure they have the foundation they need so they can be productive citizens of the community versus planning how they're going to be non-productive and what we're going to do with them when they become non-productive.
You mentioned the jail earlier. If you don't mind, 'cause this is my first rodeo, would you mind helping me understand what dictates deciding to fund a jail versus put that money into school, and why is it not necessarily both? Why does it have to be one or the other? I also want to better understand, how does a private organization funding the jail, what does that look like? And if a private organization were to fund the jail, which I would assume that means that there's no taxpayer dollars that would go into that jail, what does that look like then for education and for HCDE potentially receiving more capital?
We'll defer to the mayor
Mayor
because
Coffey.
we haven't even started having our workshops about it yet.
Okay.
Surely. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and members of both boards. Let me just start by saying this. I mean, in no way are the two projects related, and so there shouldn't be a discussion about the jail and education at the same time. I mean, they're simply not connected. I mean, it's county general government's responsibility to fund jails, and it's county government's responsibility to fund schools. It's also county's responsibility to fund health departments. So the list goes on and on. So, and there's a number of things that we're looking at as it relates to the jail that have nothing to do with, I mean, you asked the question, Ms. Robinson, about privatization, what that looks like. Well, we've been in a privatization mode for 30 years with CCA, which is now Core Civic, at the Silverdale Workhouse. So it would look much like that looks now.
Everyone knows we need schools. Everybody knows we need jails. We've got a system that's not working. It is not working. Nobody wants to raise taxes, but we can't do these things unless we have funding. Right now, we know, and we have known that this train has been coming down this track for a long time. That whistle, we heard it 30 years ago, and it is blowing louder because it's upon us and is about to overtake us.
If you look at the dollars, if you look at what's happened in county government, because, and I'll say this with respect to Senator Gardner, our state, one of our state senators, you know, over the years, there used to be a lot of shared costs. In municipalities, they have the choice, and I don't blame them. If I was the mayor of a municipality, I wouldn't run a school system either, because it's extremely expensive. So what happened, that got dumped on Hamilton County. I wouldn't run a jail system either. So what happened, that got dumped on. And guess what? There wasn't any revenue. There was some revenue for a short period of time when Chattanooga got out of the school business. There was no revenue came with the jails. No revenue came with the getting out of the EMS business. And I was on the other side and I was applauding it because, you know, my responsibility at that time was for medical services within the city limits. I thought, man, this is a great day. Little did I know what was going to happen years later. But you start looking at all of these different expenditures, and that's why, you know, our delegation's working diligently to look and see how you get county dollars. But when we start talking about tax equity or some type of parity about how we're funded, we get our money from sales tax, and not a lot of that, and from property tax. That's pretty much it. You know, and money that comes back from the BEP is sales tax. So that's where that money comes from. So I'm not trying to give a civics lesson, or I'm not complaining about it, but that's what we're up against to say, you know, so when you sit down and I think I've got a really proven track record, I don't want to raise taxes. I don't want to. How far can you stretch that before that happens? I don't know. You know, will we go back with these gentlemen and with the ladies that help us there in the office on the financial team and pull a rabbit out of the hat again this year? Probably. But it won't be without a whole lot.